This is take number 3 on a video about poetry. I'm here in Miss P Dub's room in case you recognize the walls or whatever. Poetry rhymes sometimes. It has meter, which is a steady beat, sometimes. And sometimes it doesn't, which is what we call free verse. We've already talked about free verse. Free verse is when a poem doesn't rhyme, it doesn't have a beat, doesn't follow any rules, except that it's written in lines and stanzas. Stanzas are the chunks of lines together that look a little bit like a paragraph. So this week we're talking about some poetry that doesn't follow those rules. These are specific kinds of poems that have specific rules all of their own. Yesterday here in the classroom, we talked about this one, a haiku. It is a Japanese traditional poem, usually about nature, that has a somber, thoughtful, serious tone to it. All poetry is written to have a tone or a mood. The haiku is supposed to be kind of a serious, thoughtful tone to give us a little snapshot of nature. It's a short little poem. It's got 3 lines, and those lines have a particular beat. In the classroom yesterday, we actually got to write some haikus. They were not super great about nature. They were really kind of funny. So I want to read one to you just to kind of let you know what a haiku is. The rules for a haiku are 5 syllables on the first line, 5 beats, 7 syllables or 7 beats on the second line, and 5 beats on the third line. And that's the only rules. The thing I like about the haiku is you don't have to use capitalization, you don't have to use punctuation, it doesn't have to be in sentences, which seems to me like it makes it kind of easy. So this was the haiku that I told the students about yesterday. Summer thunderstorm, cold hail and lightning destroy. Rain lifts new flowers. And that's all. That is a haiku. There's its picture. Very short, very simple little snapshot of nature. Today's poem is called a limerick. The word limerick actually comes from a place in Ireland named Limerick. They're supposed to be funny or humorous, which is a synonym for funny. And they're just kind of silly little poems. Now, this also has some specific rules. It's always going to have 5 lines, and the rhyme scheme for this is going to be line 1 and line 2 and line 5 will all rhyme. And then 3 and 4 will rhyme. Okay, how I write that down. 5 lines, 1, 2, and 5 all rhyme together, and then 3 and 4 rhyme together. Now I'm going to read you a limerick. When I do, you're probably going to go, oh, yeah, I've heard poems like that before, because these are very common. There once was a teacher I had who taught me to make a doodad. It spun and it flew. I painted it blue, leaving my teacher quite mad. That's a limerick. It's just a happy, cute little poem, a little bit funny, and it follows this certain pattern. I will read another one. A bridge engineer, Mr. Crumpet, built a bridge for the good river Bumpet. A mistake in the plan left a gap in the span, but he said, well, they'll just have to jump it. So that little poem was about a bridge engineer who made a mistake and there was a hole in the bridge, and he just said, I'll be all right, they can just jump over it, which is kind of funny because that'll never happen. This one I read in my last class, and they said they believed it had a bit of a hyperbole in it. It says, there was a young lady of Lynn who was so uncommonly thin that when she essayed to drink lemonade, she slipped through the straw and fell in. Well, obviously, no one can be small enough to slide through a straw, so that is a hyperbole. That pattern, that beat you hear, is what makes it a limerick. And most times they start out with, there once was a blah, 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 blah. A person from somewhere is how it kind of goes. And then you tell about the person. Yes, sir. Um, I guess exaggerated that when you're drinking, you squish yourself up so small that you slide down the straw. Can't really happen. Another one, this says, there once was a lady named Rose who couldn't stand weight on her toes. She cut holes in her sheet and stuck through her feet, but slept poorly because her toes froze. So that is what we call a limerick. It just gives you a little bit of information. It's usually about a person, but it follows this pattern. A, A, B, B, A. And the beats, it's not exact. The first one that I read to you had 8 syllables in the first line, 8 in the second, and then these two are shorter, 5 and 5, and the last one was 7. So some kind of version of that. Long, long, short, short, long to give you the steady beat. Now, virtuals, that's all we've touched on in poetry this week. You have a poetry assignment on Schoology. Read very carefully because I got some crazy answers last night when I was grading papers. Those answers aren't normal. You have to read that poem very carefully and think about the answer before you answer it. Go back and look to make sure you're right. See you later.